say that before I retired, I was working at a hospital in Anne Arundel County, and that's where I met Tom Salvatore. Tom was working in capacity as a software engineer for a company that made a lot of equipment that we used in the hospital.
Still do.
Yeah, particularly in the radiation therapy center. And so Tom's an outgoing, talkative guy, likes to share what he's doing other than work, and found out that he was an avid privy digger. And most people, you know what a privy is, back in the days of outhouses, and particularly in the city, where the privies were often stone lined, makes excavating them, I'm sure, a little bit safer. But Tom would regale me with stories about things he found in Baltimore, and surreptitiously going in and finding stuff and digging holes. But they're diggers too. They just dig bigger holes than us guys.
How deep do you go? How deep?
Philadelphia, they'll go to 30 feet sometimes. Well, yeah, sometimes I've seen 35 foot in Philadelphia downtown.
You dig that?
Yeah, we've done them down from the top down, 30 feet. It's 3 stories straight down.
And every foot you go out, because of the numerical geometry, you're almost like doubling the mass. So a 4-footer is twice as big, you know, in very, very loose terms than a 3-footer. So it gets huge.
Yeah, we have teams of people do it. We'll discuss that.
Yeah, so that's my connection with Tom. So been wanting to have Tom come in and do a presentation to people about what these guys do. And Tom said, yeah, well, I'll bring my friend Mike. So Mike Frechette comes from Philadelphia. He came down to Tom's house. They drove down together. And after their time with us tonight, we're going to let them go early after their presentation. They've got a dig going up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So no more say than that. But at any rate, glad to turn it over to you guys. Thanks for coming
Thanks,
tonight.
Mike. Thank you.
You bet.
Hey, I got a question for you before you go.
Sure.
Is that why you got into metal detecting, because of our interactions?
Probably.
Oh.
Yeah, probably.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Started
The
another
president, here's where he started.
Yeah.
From
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You got the floor.
Yeah, thank you, President.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so my name's Tom Salvatore. I used to metal detect back in the day. I metal detected. I think I got my first metal detector was a white Spectrum. I think anybody have one? I started hunting schoolyards, and then I switched over. I was pretty good with mapping, so I started studying maps and studying sandboards and things like that, and some county maps, and I started hitting the woods. And I did pretty good. I have a pretty big Civil War collection, a lot of house sites. I specialize in house sites mostly. I moved to Norfolk in the 90s, and they put a mall in down there. It's called MacArthur Center. And I was metal detecting out there in the fields, where there was just acres of just open area, where they were just downtown area. Colonial stuff everywhere. Every swing of the detector brought you something cool. Reals, large pennies, you name it. It was great. But there was also these features out there, and I didn't know what they were. They were wood lined, brick lined. I didn't know what a privy was, but I was digging them in the late, I'd say 93, 94. I didn't know I was digging privies until someone told me, but I was digging them out and recovering the bottles from Norfolk. Then I moved up to Baltimore, and I really hit it hard up here in Baltimore. I dug a lot of privies where the stadium was, a lot of the old neighborhoods that are gone behind Hopkins, all those old neighborhoods which are gentrified now that are hard to access. I've probably been in them. In fact, some of the artifacts that well, let me back up a second. Does everybody know what a privy is? Privies were, I'm going to tell you, it's a bathroom where people would go to, they never went to the bathroom in their house. They didn't have that luxury. They'd go out in the back. And these features are just a hole in the ground, usually brick lined or wood lined. Sometimes they're made of barrels. You'll dig it out and you'll see the barrel bands there. And it's a hogshead barrel. You know, hogshead barrel is 6 feet tall. So we would dig those out, find them. Here's the main tool we use. It's a probe. This right here is probably a trunk spring out of a mid-80s Buick. You know, they're bigger, stronger, longer. This is how you find privies right here.
You're looking for ground that hasn't been disturbed. So you're looking and you're finding ground that hasn't been disturbed. Then you can feel it. It kind of like feels a little like has a certain feel to it. and then you find that and find that, and then you find something that has been disturbed, and then if it goes down below a certain level, you're figuring you're into a privy. And you can also tell by listening to it when you slide it in, if it's ash, if it's bricky, you know, sometimes you can even tell if it's glass or pottery. You get that like kind of crackle when you get down to the layer. Where
You can tell it's hitting glass. A lot of times we know what kind of privies and the color of the brick. There's different colors to brick, and we kind of know what it is.
You ever put one through an artifact?
Never. Probably have examples. Yeah.
If you see anything with a hole in it, it wasn't us.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, this is our tool we find. Usually you don't use it when you get down to where the stuff is. But you're digging a privy that starts at about that depth, and you're probing, you know, down to here. We know where the walls are generally, and we'll hit most of them are brick liners that we dig. So we'll hit something, and we'll look at the tip, and we'll see if it's got a brick on it.
Mhm.
Always leaves a signature on it, and we get excited when we see like a real salmon-esque type, you know, brick like that color.
Yeah, pale orange.
Yep, like it's
Kinda,
pumpkin.
There's no guarantees, but it kind of gives you a feel for the age of the pit. And the area that we're working these days, we kind of work with the way gentrification moves through a neighborhood. So they're digging holes to put in new houses where these old houses were. We're working those, and where we're at now, they're between 11 and 16, 18 feet. That's kind of the average. So that's a day dig. I mean,
For tubits,
down south, they go 30 plus feet. So that
South meaning South Philly.
South Philly, yeah.
How do you climb out of it?
We have fire escape ladders. You ever seen those rope? Not rope, but steel wire ladders.
Do you shore it up?
Yeah. Well, I don't
No.
have to. A privy in and of itself is already shored.
So the way that it's structured, it's a brick line privy is an arch. It's a 360-degree arch, and the more pressure you put on it from the outside, the stronger it is, right? The tighter it gets on itself. So
Hope you're right.
No, you know what?
I'm here.
We're here, but I can tell you when they were putting in some of those neighborhoods off Martin Luther King. I don't know how much people know Baltimore. I'm sure you know it pretty well, but Martin Luther King and Lombard. There's a neighborhood. It's newer there. Well, they put that in. I was digging all that and out there, and we were going. Quite frankly, we were going at night because we're not allowed there in the day. But you just didn't get caught at night. So we'd go out there at night and we'd find the privies and we'd dig them out. And sometimes some of them were already cut down pretty far. We'd dig them out and you'd see where the bulldozers run over them and they're still sound. They plow right through them things in there. So in the circle of bricks, offset by half each row, is a very sound structure when put up into a hole. So we don't really worry too much about cave-ins.
There's also we have like a whole system of protocol that we follow that that for safety. I mean, the guy. I mean, we don't dig alone, and there's the guy on the top is watching the guy on the bottom, and he doesn't leave him. And you can, I mean, and sometimes we'll do things that are like that to other people might seem a little hairy. Like, so say we have a 18-foot privy. We might dig it down half of it, so you've got half of the wall still standing in there. But there's rules. You can't do that with ash. You absolutely cannot do that with ash.
Yes, sir.
Backhoe them, or
No, we don't have a luxury of backhoe. We wish we dig next to backhoes that are there for the
you
next
can't leave a
morning.
hole like that. You got to fill it in. Or?
Correct.
Yeah, we fill them all
Yeah,
in.
so you're
Absolutely.
digging that and then you're filling it back in.
But if you didn't get everything, you're filling in on top of it.
We get everything. Most of the stuff here, we're the type that we get every shard out of it, every little piece we find. Most of these things were in pieces that you see here. We'll get to some of this, and we've just reassembled. And
When we have the luxury, we'll sift it.
yeah,
I mean,
we'll
my son is 15 now, but I built a sifting machine, and
You have
he's
to
like
get
a pig in
permission to
shit,
do
and
that?
he loves it.
Yeah, permission. Right now, we're getting big permissions because he lives in Philadelphia and he knows a lot of contractors. He gets calls every day from people wanting to buy his property.
Yeah.
He lives downtown Philly, so we're ingrained in it. I don't know if you guys saw there was a PBS special they put on. It was they featured us on it, and it was.
So we get calls, and
People know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at.
but the system that we're using. So to answer your question about the backhoes, is we're digging down with a shovel till we can't throw it out anymore, and then we have a tripod with a rope and a bucket that goes down, and then the guy pulls it up, and the other guy empties it, and like that till
A lot
you're at
of
the
work.
bottom.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
there's a couple more of us. We have two friends that are from New Jersey that come in and meet us, big strapping farmer guys, and you know we're not those guys.
Tougher than us.
They're tougher than us. They actually are farmers, and Kevin, he's 6'5", and I mean he pulls buckets of everything leaves the privy in a bucket. We pull up the bucket, he pulls it hand over hand a rope. I've seen him pull a hand over hand
30-footer.
30-foot deep.
He didn't know what a tripod was till we.
Yeah,
we were like, yeah, this is much easier.
Tripod, big 1-foot sheave on the top of this tripod structure. I went and bought fence pieces at Home Depot, put together. Went to a welder and told him what I need. He welded the tabs on, and then
Just being able to use your weight to your advantage as opposed to hand over hand like that. It's
How do you know when you hit the bottom?
Well, so it changes. So you're at the for one thing, the bricks run out. So for another, like I can tell you with that when the bottom is too, because you're going in, and generally it's packed river rock on the bottom. Like it's like a very coarse sand. So you're going, and then it just stops, and it just like that hits it.
So the people that originally built it didn't have the bricks, they dug the hole, went down the bottom and then laid the bricks.
Well, that's a great question. Now,
Yeah.
I've heard various ways that was done. There's people who say that they had a wooden donut that they would stand on, and they would dig out underneath it, and as it dropped down, they would put it in another course, which doesn't make any sense to me, because how do you get the upper courses to stay up, right? I mean, I'm not a
There's probably a
scientist.
mason in here
I'm not a
that knows that,
scientist,
but I mean,
right? Like, that doesn't seem make sense. But there had to be some kind of shoring mechanism. But yeah, these guys were digging through virgin ground that's rough. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to dig through it. We dig a lot. I've been digging for years. And, you know, I give the shovel to some of my friends, and they try to dig, and they're
Yeah, we
like,
wear out
working.
shovels, but these guys were, I mean, it's rough work, what they were doing.
Question for you, other than making it from the trunk parts and then going to a welder, do you recommend anybody for the probes? Because all I have is a steel shaft. I'm looking
Yeah,
for a spring
if you're
steel
really going to
shaft.
find privies with any regularity, you need this spring steel
I think
shaft.
somebody sells them. I think
Yeah,
Well, I was
there's-
going to contact the Digging Virginia guy down there
Yeah.
who does the Civil War huts, but
That's your best bet, unless you know how to weld or you got access.
Yeah.
All mine, I go to junkyards and I ask them, "Where's your old Buicks at?" That's the question I've always asked, and they'll send me to the back where they don't even have cars as that old
'cause
anymore.
I'm afraid of impaling myself. You
You will, you can-
Well, yeah, and when, I mean, I make them, I'm retired now, but I was a special effects guy, so I welded all the time, that was my thing. And the trick is, you drill a hole that accommodates this size, and you drill a hole on the top that doesn't. So that's just a tack weld up here. So if it breaks, it doesn't come through.
Now I've had that happen. When I
Not
travel,
with mine.
I used to travel. Yeah, not with yours. I used to travel a lot, and when I like to fly out to San Jose. I was digging out there. I'd fly out, go right to Home Depot, buy a shovel, go to the junkyard and get a probe, and I'd go to Auto Parts and get an exhaust pipe, and I'd go get it welded. And I didn't use this technique with the smaller hole up there, and I was probing in San Jose, and it was really hard, and that weld broke right there and came right at me, right at the chest. I mean, that would have impaled me. So yeah, that's a.
And it's a lot of force. And the other thing that the salient point on this is that you want to put a nut on here. Yeah, so that opens it up a little bit bigger than the rest of the probe, so that you don't have friction on there. You can hear it a little bit better, and
You won't get this in the ground. Without that, you won't get this far into the ground.
would you recommend a 5-footer like that? Because I've seen up to
I like
7-8
longer,
foot.
and I like this. This is what 3/8, I think.
it's nice to have a short one because it's easier on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And then you have a long one to find. Like this, you can find it with this. And then when you get the longer one, we have an 8-footer that we use sometimes to put down there just to find out how deep it is or where it changes, because you find subtleties in that mean things to you after a while.
Yeah, so that gets you right to what we want to talk about is the anatomy of the privy. Like,
Sir?
What's the average diameter of your holes?
4 foot's normal, but they
4 to
go.
7, 6.
Yeah, but they go up to 8.
That's a
So.
lot of digging.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We do.
Three-holer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, it's with
the number of holes on the top is not relevant to how big it is down below.
Now, do you use that probe to locate pieces and shards?
No.
To locate the privy.
Just to find the
But also we're also using to say, like, is there layer down there? So say we're 10 foot down, we find the bottom, and it just runs the same way all the way down. we might just say,
Yeah, we might bag it.
but I would say forget it, it's not worth it.
I seen a guy bottle hunting, he was using a metal rod like that. He'd run it down until he hit glass.
Take,
Yeah, well, that's when you see us doing it, we're going slow like this and listening.
and you're just listening.
feeling it, and you're just pushing it in.
You don't want to break something.
Yeah, because it's happened. No, it's never
No,
happened.
it's not.
Hey, have you ever been shut down by the city saying it's too dangerous?
No,
Because
not the city, but the
No.
cops have.
Cops,
shown up.
landowners sometimes come out there.
But people will routinely come up to you and say that's not safe because people have a habit of not know, like when they don't know what they're talking about, feel pretty okay of telling
people
you.
are nosy.
Yeah, well, no, nosy's fine. I mean, I'm happy to talk, but people are. I mean, I worked blue collar my whole life. I know my way around heavy stuff. I know my way around loads. All my fingers and toes are here, so I'm pretty safe guy. But people walk right up to you and just say that's not safe.
Yeah, like they're with no knowledge. They do that all the time out in Philadelphia with demolition jobs. They're
Well,
not
it's because there's a lot of demolition that's actually killed people recently. But
Yeah,
that's-
there's that.
Right. So you guys have a video?
I have a bunch of videos on YouTube. You can find me on there.
And then there's also the one that PBS has that's on our site. The Privy Diggers on Facebook is our
Yes,
site.
we're the Privy Diggers, and then you go on Google PBS the Privy Diggers, and you'll see us getting interviewed on there. And that's
Shows
why
a lot
I
more-
they
more of
keep
the
playing it
artifacts
up.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a big difference in digging in the city and let's say digging out in the countryside where the old houses are?
Huge difference.
Yeah, the city's much better because people didn't have anywhere to throw their trash. In the country, I mean, you had to dig that hole, right? So if you're filling it up with trash, it's not so good. And you could just throw it over the hill, which is or in the river, which is what a lot of people did. So they're less rich. I mean, but we come across holes in the city that have never been dipped, we call it, and there's maybe just a few little tiny things in there. And other ones are just depends on how the people work, you know.
You've been doing this so often, do you sell your stuff, or do you have
If
warehouses?
we didn't, we'd have.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying, I mean, do you,
Yeah, no, so this is what
is this profit?
this is no.
Yes.
I mean,
Well, kind of. Because we have so many of them.
I mean, so yeah, we do sell stuff, but I mean, we always say you'd be better off working at Wawa.
Yeah, I mean,
It's-
you gotta like doing this.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I can-
very difficult.
But you don't have a warehouse full of it, you sell some.
we do sell stuff and I give it away, and but this is what bottle diggers. This is what the Privy Diggers, by and large, are after. These bottles are called sodas, and you can see this one's got an iron pommel on it. That means it's like pre-1850.
1860
Yeah,
earlier.
early 60s,
Late
late 50s. And this is what they're after. And they all have different names on them. The guys collect these, and some of them are worth hundreds of dollars. Some of them are very common, but I'm not really attached to these. This is not, I don't really like
Yeah,
these.
it's a green
not-
bottle with words on it. And you know, there's guys that will kill us for these things.
Oh yeah, no. I've seen like brick fights between grown men.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a fact.
Yeah,
That's
fact,
not even-
it happened.
What
Soda or
Guys
beer.
fighting on a.
So flavored water and also self-carbonated water was a big thing. So this is what everybody's after. I couldn't really care less. I
They
mean,
come
I'm
in different colors, different
more, yeah,
shades, blue.
more interested in this stuff, which is the redware. This is made in Philadelphia. It's also made down here too, but it started getting made in around 18. Well, it was made colonially, but it really got a big burst in the 1800s because of the blockade of the harbors, War of 1812. People started manufacturing stuff here because you couldn't get this stuff, which was the European stuff that was flooding the market, super cheap, that was brought in. And it's all hand painted, and it's just this. We have some really cool ones. We have one that says one flag. It's a Civil War plate. We have another one, a really special one that we found together. It's a guy. It's a portrait that the guy did of his wife, who looks a little bit like Sammy Hagar. She's got a mullet, and it said "That my gal" on there. And then he realized after it came off the press that it was supposed to be apostrophe S, and he kind of scratched it in.
Yeah, you can see it was appended.
Yeah. It was.
But that's really cool. It's a folk art piece.
Yeah.
And we get a kick out of that stuff. That's why you see most of the stuff here is the bottles are almost ancillary to us. You know, I kind of like the black glass type
Yeah, this
bottle.
is this is early. This is like
That's 1790s to
Yeah.
1820 probably.
mallet, and we find them occasionally. And these, like, I prefer stuff that tells a story. Like these meads, it's a mead honey wine bottle. And you can see where the kid, usually a child who glazed these, put their fingers right there, and then dipped it in the glaze.
You can see fingerprints on
Yeah.
it. There's actually,
But I was thinking,
Fingerprint.
these are fairly common, these stoneware beers, but I mean, you can imagine this thing in a bar fight, it's just...
yeah, they're carrying home an armlet on it.
Right, yeah, a case, go get me a case of mead.
Nancy's got a question.
Sure, yes.
Is there, for a double seater, is it the same size hole as a regular one?
Yeah, I mean, they would, absolutely, there was just how big the house was didn't really necessarily, although, you know, there were ones that accommodated whole apartment blocks, basically, like
Or a row of Trinity houses.
Yeah.
Trinity houses are one bay deep and 3 high.
yeah.
And there'd be a row of them, and usually have one privy that served that.
And they would have them on courts, so they weren't really on the street. There would be an alley that would service them, and then there'd be a little backyard in the back. And some of those are just monsters.
Well, this goes back to like steamships delivering stuff,
I'm interested.
and it's also in like tidewater area, so how would you check it? Because it would be like sand.
Yeah, you'd use a probe to find it, to locate the walls.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the probe, and then you would just start digging. That's all there's to it. Usually we dig towards the wall when we find it to see what the liner was, meaning that what was it, wood? Was it a barrel? Was it a brick liner? Or like in Lancaster, we see a lot of stone liners made of just stone. But yeah, we want to know what we're dealing with right away, and we go for the edge and you dig
Helps us
down.
date it too.
Yeah, it helps you date it as well.
If it's close to the tidewater, mushy stuff, before you get into like a bay.
Well, you gotta remember that they could have only dug as deep as you could dig because the water level hasn't changed that much on the ocean yet.
I
But
mean, you have big floods that come through there.
yeah, I know, but I'm saying there's only so far down they can go. That probably just dumped straight into the water and it took it out with the tide.
A lot of the country privy we find, or at least I found, and I've been to literally hundreds of house sites that are not there anymore, and I have found privies, like was what you said, digging the big iron. You dig big iron and you're going to occasionally find a privy or pit. Yes?
You ever use a deep seeking?
Yeah, we have a GPR, ground penetrating radar,
Yeah.
and we use that, but it's not as effective in the city. It really isn't. We use it here and there. This is way more effective than the GPR because we kind of know where the privy is going to be in the first place, and there's not really many surprises that a GPR tells us up in the city because there's so much.
We also don't know how to use it yet.
Yeah, there's that.
So it's like a fish finder. I don't know if you guys ever used the fish finder. The one that shows you the picture of the fish, and at least like perks your interest. The other one just shows you the squiggly line. You're like, I don't know what that is. It's like
thing. That's a
yeah.
So we do just feel around until
Absolutely.
One
it
of the-
shows a pattern.
The most exciting thing I can find in a city is natural ground, because I know that I'm going to walk across. Most of those lots were 14 to 16 feet wide. So you get a given block in the city of Philadelphia or Baltimore. The properties were only 16 feet wide max, between wall to wall. Then there's a neighbor, then there's another one, and then the depth of the yard depended on the depth of the block. And usually there was a row of homes on the other side. So from me to you is the average backyard side. So I know that the back door was here. I'd go over where she's standing and probe over that side because it seemed like the privy was always opposite the door on the last bay of the house. And I don't know why that was, but it's...
When you go down and feel it,
Yeah.
when you feel it, I mean.
So, yeah, this will take off.
Well, yeah, but so when you don't have to find the circular part. All you have to do is you find the natural ground and then you find what's not natural. So when you're probing in natural ground, it resists you, and there's usually clay or whatever's in there, and then you hit a privy and it goes like that, and it just eats it.
So you don't necessarily hit the wall.
No, but once you find that spot, then you go sideways into the wall.
Okay.
So you're going, okay, so there's a wall, and I'm not, and you can say, oh, this is a disturbed ground from me to you. That's a basement. But if it's only 4 foot wide, you got it, or 6 foot or whatever. You got it pretty good.
And there's a lot of probing. If you look at this thing, it's thinner here just due to wear.
Yeah, we wear the nuts off those.
We wear shovels and probes out. I mean, this is a lifetime, life-changing hobby. I mean, you got to be.
But jewelry, you find much jewelry?
I think I'd end up in the same thing.
I was in, many years ago.
Since you're doing construction sites.
What's that?
I said, since you're doing construction sites, do they paint them for you?
They paint them?
For utilities? You're running them where we're running utilities through that?
Oh, no. That's from the street. We're in from the street a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah. Oh, the other guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I just.
I'm the common. Thank you.
Oh, you are. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna stop in and see you.
All right.
What's your name? Small world.
Anyway, I was behind this guy that they stopped. And they searched his luggage for some reason. And they found